Department of Child Services could undergo significant changes after an independent evaluation outlined a number of issues within the agency. Long festering problems in the child welfare system exploded into public view in December when former DCS Director Mary Beth Bonaventura resigned. In a scathing letter, she accused Governor Holcomb's administration of making management changes and service cuts that all but ensure children will die. Holcomb brought in a consultant to review the agency. As Brandon Smith reports, the governor is pledging to take action on the problems detailed in the report.
Some of the challenges identified: overburdened and underpaid workers, too many children in foster care, and a, quote, culture of fear among DCS workers. Holcomb says half of the evaluator's recommendations were in past reports but not implemented. The governor is moving $25 million from the state's surplus to address some issues, including better pay for DCS workers, but he won't say whether more money is needed.
As you improve in one area, that can draw down cost in another area, and it's synchronizing all of those actions that makes this one of the most challenging jobs on the face of the planet.
The evaluator also recommends structural changes to the agency. For example, it suggests the state's caseload requirements, how many cases DCS workers should handle at once, should be redefined. The agency has never met its caseload standards, but DCS Director Terry Stigdon says adjusting the definition isn't about ensuring the state finally meets those requirements.
To make sure that we are able to look at caseloads that is considered the best way to look at caseloads in child welfare.
Democrats who have been advocating for the legislature to take action for years praised the governor's action and said they were encouraged.
And Brandon's with us now. Thanks for coming on, Brandon. You know, the DCS overwhelming caseload has been an issue for years. So how far has DCS been from meeting the needs of children in the state?
Well, the caseload specific issue constantly varies. It's measured by region in DCS, and there's 19 of those regions across the state. And so at any one time, some of those regions might be meeting the standard, others might not, but at no time have they all been meeting the standard. Now, as to whether or not DCS is meeting the needs of children, that's much more complex and probably almost impossible to definitively measure.
The evaluator also says Indiana's definition of neglect is broad. Ed Delaney says he's not sure that's a necessary change to look at.
I mean, what are we trying to do? Have we been too generous to our children in defining what's neglect, and too broad in determining who should be held responsible for neglect? I would hope we haven't, but that is not an area that I would think is useful for us to work on.
So, Brandon, do you see much political will to examine that side of the issue?
Well, there will probably be some, because this was a major recommendation from the evaluator, but it's a politically tricky one, because any move to change the caseload definitions, or the definition of neglect rather, that could be seen as just trying to move the goalposts to make DCS look better.
So now that they have these recommendations, what's required by state leaders to implement these changes?
Well, some of the issues are really internal to DCS, so leaders within the agency, everybody within the agency can make those changes. Others are going to cost money, so that's something that lawmakers will have to take into account when they write a new state budget next year in their 2019 session. And then still others, things like changing the definition of neglect or redefining how the caseload standards are calculated. Those would require actual changes to state law.
All right, Brandon, thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.